we're going to start off by in the self-service portal. Now, for those of you that, again, maybe are existing Remedyforce customers, you will notice that this is slightly different, and that's simply because I'm accessing the self-service portal through the Salesforce.com interface. So for those of you that already have Salesforce.com, this is certainly an app that is accessible both by your technical staff as well as your customers. And so I've logged in as Peter Campbell here. Peter has the ability to see his chatter feeds, that, of anything that he might be following. He can see items that he is responsible for approving. But more importantly, we also have this additional tab that would be available to Peter, and from here we can simply select that tab, and that will now take us into Remedyforce through the to the self-service page. And with that, once we've logged into the self-service page, we immediately see popular knowledge articles. So a very nice feature is the knowledge management solution within Remedyforce, and here we're seeing a dynamic list of knowledge articles. So the more knowledge article is used, the higher the feedback. It'll bubble towards the top of the list. The less it's used, the lower the feedback. It may drop out of this list. So it is a dynamic list that you're seeing here. And also the knowledge articles, to point out, they are rich text, or rich in sense of you can include images like you're seeing here. So how do I reset my BlackBerry? At this point, here's an image. We also have embedded some links to other websites or to a YouTube video where we have, where we can see more detailed information about that. And there certainly are a number of different types of articles that we can create. So aside from searching knowledge, we also have access to previously registered incidents and requests. So at the bottom here, and by the way, these are all objects that the customer can manipulate on the page as they wish. So at any point, they can drag and drop these around as needed. But from here, let's say this customer wants to see what the status is based upon this password reset that was registered a while back. Well, they can simply come here, they can double-click, open up that record. They have a nice stage indicator letting them know what stage in the incident management process that this record is in. If they need to add notes, they can certainly do that by simply going here to the note field and selecting add. And that is captured, and certainly we can notify the appropriate staff members of those types of updates if we wish to do so. So let's go back to the home page. One other thing I want to point out while we're here at self-service, notice that we do have some templates that we can utilize for common occurring things like password resets, printer setups. These are, maybe typical requests that we have. But and more importantly, they're typical issues. I guess that'd be a more accurate statement that we might have. Now, on the other hand, there are requests, and with that, we do need to, what's great about the service catalog capabilities within Remedyforce, it allows us to define templates and collect the necessary information up front. So as you can see here, we've got a handful of requests. And by the way, these are one of the things that our consultants will do during the implementation is they will work with you to identify these types of templates and help you with the configuration. At the same time, we want to teach you how to do this configuration yourself, because you can only imagine how many different ways that this can be used for different applications, different hardware requests, all types of things, permissions to folders and applications, all those types of things. So to give you an example, let's just say that we have a customer that wants to request a new tablet. Well, from here, we're simply going to select that option, and the form, the UI, is going to look very similar to what you've seen from an incident. However, one of the things that that is very different are the fields that are on that form. So what is the brand of device that you need? Well, is it Apple, Google device, Samsung, what have you? Well, if we go into Apple, now what is the model of this device? So do we want the 16 gig, 32, or 64 gig version of the iPad? I'm going to go with the 32 gig. I just can't see spending that much money. And so, one thing that's not displayed here are costs. So there is a costing feature that you can enable on your service catalog if you wish. But now, do I need the service, cellular service? Do I need network access at all times? And so in that case, I can choose the cellular provider and any other thing that we might need as it relates to that. So again, the point is that this is allowing you to capture the necessary information that you will need to fulfill this request up front. So in short, it reduces the back and forth, improves your customer service, because now you're able to fulfill these requests much more quickly and much more accurately. Now, ultimately, when I've completed this form, what do? I can save this to a cart, and it would appear here over in My Cart, the My Cart widget, or I can simply submit this and have it routed to the appropriate person or group. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So I've submitted this request. Now, the interesting thing, just because I want this doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to get it, right? Because it is a fairly expensive request. So my point being is that because I've requested this, it still has to go through an approval process. And so that's where the approval engine within within Force.com is used in Remedyforce. We're able to define the specific approval process for these different requests. And that can be individual, or the approval process can be applied to all requests. It's entirely up to you. Okay, with that, I think let's move on away from self-service. I want some time to talk about some of the other features from a staff perspective, but in general, hopefully this is giving you an idea of how you can utilize the self-service page and also how you can access it within Salesforce.com if you have the need to do so. I should also point out, if you do not want the customers to see the Salesforce features, there is a specific URL that customers can go to, and they won't see the self-service, or the Salesforce.com interface if that's something that is not needed. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close my browser here, and now let's take a look at the application from the perspective of a staff member. So I've logged in as myself, Ron Hill. Immediately, what I'm seeing here are dashboards that give me information that's relevant to me and to my job. I can quickly see the number of incidents that are assigned to me, the number of broadcasts that I'm responsible for. I probably need to keep an eye on how many Priority 1 incidents there are, right, and what they are. So one important note here is that as you each of these graphics that you're seeing in the dashboards, these are all backed up by a report, and that should take me to the point of when we talk about reports, it is absolutely it's very easy to create and customize your own custom reports. So BMC does provide a number of reports and dashboards out of the box with the product, but more importantly, if you want to make an adjustment or create a new report from scratch, you can do that, and you don't necessarily have to be a SQL DBA in order to do that. What I always remind folks is that the reporting engine in Remedyforce or Force.com, it was really designed for account managers to better manage their accounts. They didn't have they didn't want to have to go to IT every time they needed a report so that they could better manage their territory. So as a result, Salesforce.com or Force.com did an excellent job of creating a very easy reporting utility, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. So as I want to add descriptions or fields to my report, as I want to add capability, I absolutely can do that. So maybe, for example, I want to see the type of incident here, so we're going to add that. Maybe we want to see priority, so I'm just filtering out all of the fields that are in the database, and again, here on the left-hand side, I can filter those or see the fields and add those fields to my reports. In addition to that, I can determine, okay, do I want to see my records, all records for my team or individuals? So again, these are predefined queries and conditions that you can apply to your report if you so choose to do so. And once you've created your report, it is I would point out that, one, you can schedule these reports to be run automatically. So as we look at this report, for example, I can run the report right now, or I also have the ability to schedule it. Now, I'm not logged as an administrator, so actually I don't have that option here, but we can schedule the report to be run on a daily, weekly basis, that type of thing. Also, if I need to export the data, I have that option as well. So reporting engine, very useful within Remedyforce. So let's take a look at our incidents. A couple of things I want to point out. As I go to my incident tab, I now can see recently viewed records. I can see recently created and modified records. Now understand, when I say recently, these are records that I would have created or I modified or viewed, right? Now, there's also views that we have access to, and we do allow individuals to create their own views, whether that be making a copy of an existing view or from scratch, depending upon what your permissions are. But here are some examples of views that were already predefined. So as an example here, if I wanted to see Remedyforce service request view, I simply select that option, and here I can see that request that was made from the self-service page a little bit ago. And so as we look at this, this is what that record looks like as a staff member. We'll also notice some tabs here at the top, and this gives us access to data that is linked to this incident record or this support request record. And so one of the things you'll notice is the approval history, and it looks like we're waiting on Mr. Draper to approve this request. Now, Mr. Draper, and I talked about this earlier, he has the ability to see this information through a chatter feed. In addition to that, we can, let's refresh this here, but he has the ability to see this information or these requests in chatter. Again, he can see different things that he might be following. So at this point, if Mr. Draper wanted to approve this request from his chatter feed, he'd have the ability of doing that. So we're going to go ahead and say approved. That is fine. And we're going to say OK. Now, that's just one option. Other options that we have would be approvals through email. So if we look here and refresh our email, we can see emails that are created, and so here's an example of an approval email where at this point I can click on a hyperlink that would take me directly to the application, or I could simply reply to this email with one of these words: approved, yes, no, rejected, so forth, so on, and that will update the approval record.